as well. Absolutely would love to do that. But we are
So
live.
Vlad,
So
do you like those Beats by Dre?
It's not. It's actually not the real Beats. It's like the inexpensive version. I can't remember the brand. I'll send you the link.
So mine is, I have adjustable bass. It's a Skull Candy, like Skull Crusher is what it's called.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think that's
really
just the
like
brand.
rap music, so I need bass. Boom, 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 boom. Yeah.
I like the noise canceling because it's really good, especially for these conversations, but also you can focus really well. And again, even if you wear them outside, it's really nice. So
I need to get some headphones.
I think it's a good investment. Go ahead, Dave.
We'll get you some. We'll get you some
headsets.
Yep. Everyone should do wireless headsets, but everyone, welcome to the live stream. Thank you, Ali, for just setting us off on the right foot. If anyone has managed to miss this, myself and Vlad up here, our manufacturing hub, and Ali and Nikki, our automation ladies, will give a bit more of a proper introduction in just a moment. But Ali and Nikki have both been on our show, and we were talking, and we're like, hey, we'd love to get you guys on to talk about automation ladies, to kind of catch up between everything that's happened in the last 6 months or a year that it's been since we've had everyone on, and they have graciously agreed to come on and talk all things automation, manufacturing, and any sort of questions that you guys have. If you are new here, welcome. If you've been here before, welcome back. Manufacturing Hub, as kind of our whole, we're generally a loose 60 to 75 minute open topic, kind of open answer show. With everyone on here, it very possibly may go longer than that. And unless anyone has a hard stop, I think we're going to go chat for a while. We love to go bring community comments and interactions on these live shows that we do every Wednesday. So if you've got questions, please feel free to throw them in the LinkedIn or the YouTube chat. We will do our best to get to at least 2 or 3 of them during the live show. And then beyond that, we will do our best to go back and answer them after the show is done. I guess without any further ado, everyone, welcome to Manufacturing Hub. I am Dave. This guy up here is Vlad, and we'd like to welcome Nikki Gonzales and Ali G, the automation ladies, to the show. So Ali, Nikki, welcome. Thank you for being here.
Thanks for having us, Dave.
Having us.
Absolutely. And so before we get into it, Nikki, you have been voluntold that you get to tell everyone who the automation ladies are. So if our audience doesn't know who the automation ladies are, can you help them out, please?
Yeah, sure. So Automation Ladies is we're a podcast, sort of, or it's me and Ali doing things. We're still figuring it out.
Okay.
We gave ourselves a name that's really, I posted this a couple days ago, but I was listening to the podcast Office Ladies, which is Angela and Pam from The Office. And I thought, how cool would it be if I had a friend that I could talk about automation to? And I found Ali, and I had this crazy idea of us doing a podcast, and she strangely agreed. And so that's kind of what happened. We didn't really have a great plan. It was kind of like a spur of the moment thing. But we are ladies of action. So we just figured out how to make it happen, sort of. We're still working on it. And it turned out that we have some great connections in a community on LinkedIn. We started a LinkedIn page before we actually got the podcast out. And it has been amazing in terms of we have just kind of like this community of people that are interested in what we're doing, that support us, that, we post a lot of other people's contents. One of the reasons that we started the show was because we felt like there are not as many women as we would all like, I think, in our industry. It's hard for us oftentimes to find each other in person at the work sites or at our companies. So the way Ali and I found each other on LinkedIn, we thought, hey, if we were out there more, if there were other girls or women that are looking for or lacking somebody to chat with about automation that maybe also, can talk about their kids at home or, whatever the sort of stuff that we might have in common for being ladies in automation, we decided to put it out there. And we have found some great connections, friendships, and those sorts of things, opportunities through that. But so, yeah, we are on iTunes and, all those other places. We released season 1. It's 13 episodes that we recorded and did last year. So you can go back and listen to those if you'd like. They're not very well produced. From our side, we have an awesome producer that had crappy material to work with, and we're getting better at it. But yeah, so there's the podcast. We are actively recording and releasing season 2. So we'll be releasing an episode tomorrow. Our release schedule is roughly every week on Thursdays. And then we do LinkedIn Lives sometimes. So our first episode of the year was with Courtney Fernandez. We streamed it live on LinkedIn and it got released as an episode last week. And then the one that we're releasing tomorrow is pre-recorded. We're not there yet to a point where we have, we show up every week like you guys, every Wednesday. It's awesome. We're trying to kind of figure that out if we can fit that into our schedule. But not in a nutshell, is Automation Ladies.
I would say what's really important, and Nikki, you mentioned this early in your description, is just getting started, right? I think a lot of people probably reach out to you and sometimes reach out to us as well and ask, well, I would like to do something on social media, whether it is a podcast, posting blogs, content, and they sometimes, I think, like get stuck and overthink what to create or when to post. But I think that mindset of just starting and then improving and experimenting, and certainly me and Dave can relate to that too, because again, we don't have the best production quality. I think we've figured out a lot of things on our own. We've hacked things together, but it's just kind of pushing through. And I think it relates a lot to controls as well, right? If we want to step on the technical side, there's a lot of times that there's uncertainty. You don't know what's going to happen. You need to experiment and kind of get through it. But no, really appreciate that introduction. I wanted to maybe ask each one of you. Maybe we'll start with Ali G and then Nikki. Your personal backgrounds. How did you get started in manufacturing? What is it that you do now? How did you land again in the space? And yeah, any other comments about manufacturing?
Yeah, I can answer that. But first, I wanted to make a comment that I've heard a lot of people say, because I've asked them, like, would you come on the podcast? And I've already decided that they know enough to talk on the podcast. And people will say, that's a lot of pressure. Like, I don't think I know enough for people to listen to me. And they're wrong. And they're so wrong. And one of the things that I understood from when I first read it, and I'm trying to remember who posted it, but basically somebody said, maybe it was Justin Welsh, but somebody said that something that you find common knowledge, somebody else will pay for. And so you don't know what you know. And that's a really big thing with engineers, where we don't believe that we know a lot more than we do. And even the basic stuff to us seems like ridiculous. But a lot of people would really love if you could just tell them the basic stuff just to get into an industry. Sorry, but anyway, my name is Ali G, and I was trying to hide like every other engineer does. And then I met Nikki and realized that that's just not actually how we're going to help the future generations do anything. Especially because she's right. Is there a whole bunch of women with this hardware behind them? No. Would that be nice? Yeah. And especially because women want to see what are other women doing and not just what the men are doing. And obviously we love what the men are doing. Otherwise, that's why we're emulating what the men are doing. But there is some sort of, I guess, responsibility that the girls have to kind of just do the whole representation does matter. And we keep saying it over and over and over again and beating a dead horse, but it's true, especially to the people who aren't represented here. And they get really stoked when they start seeing stuff. I get messages all the time. So to me, that's important. But what I do is I'm an engineer. I spent 10 years engineering. And then I was crazy enough to start my own business with the help of people pushing me. It wasn't just me. I had all the same fears that normal people have. And I just had really good backup that were just you have it. You have it. Whatever it is. And, that still doesn't mean that if I had failed that those people are responsible. I want to make that clear. Because it's still me to choose to do that stuff. So that's me. I want to go to Nikki.
Yeah, okay. So Nikki Gonzales, my dad's an engineer and an entrepreneur, and I grew up working with him since I can remember. I started babysitting. I actually moved to the US when I was 12, and I didn't get a working visa until I was in college, and then I got a green card sometime after that. And I'm a dual citizen now, but I couldn't get a real job like when I was in high school. So I worked for my dad. He paid me, I don't know, from his own pocket somehow. I think I started at like $5 an hour, so totally not legit, but you know, family business. Um, and he has always been a person that like he grew up in a small town in Iceland, and that's where I grew up until I was 11. About 16,000 people. Not, you know, opportunity. It's a great place to live. But we didn't come from a lot. My family are like farmers and stuff. In the earlier generations. And so my dad was always, you know, finding different ways to make money, side hustles, businesses. He would flip cars and build computers and he
Nerd stuff.
yeah, I got an engineering degree. He used to sell fish. He would like buy fish at the dock and then drive it out to the countryside and sell it door to door. And so I just saw this like drive. So my dad actually, you know, coming from a really small place in a small country like Iceland, you know, how do you get opportunity on an international scale, for instance? Well, he was working with a tech company that was doing fishing stuff and location, and you know, IoT before that was a thing. And he ended up working on some EU initiatives for fisheries monitoring, and he just got himself noticed by being good at what he does. And he's one of those engineers that is also social, I guess. And so he ended up sales engineering stuff, even though he wasn't in sales at all. But he got noticed by this multinational, this British company, and they were like, "Hey, you made this giant sale just from, you know, being a good, I guess what you would call pre-sales engineer or whatever. You put together the right solutions and you talk to the right stakeholders and they buy something." And so he ended up being a marketing manager, and that's what got us moved to the US. I guess he had this dream. They were like, "Hey, do you want to come work for us here in England?" Or he's like, "I really want to go to the US." And they were like, "Oh, we have a survey branch in Houston. You can go there if you come work for us in England first for a while." So that was kind of like how I ended up in the US as a kid. And I really saw my dad as this role model that I wanted to follow. Like he was going on international business trips and at the same time was doing it in, you know, solving technical things. And he would talk about these things that I didn't really understand, but sounded cool. Like he wrote his master's thesis on an artificially intelligent robot back in like 1987. And I didn't know what any of that was, but it just seemed really cool. But when I was in high school, the sciences and the math was harder for me. I had to do a lot more studying for that. Whereas English, surprisingly, even though it's not my first language, super easy. I love talking to people. I was in theater, that sort of thing. And so I saw my dad as a business owner by that point. He had gone from, you know, being an engineer to being a marketing manager to starting his own company. He still does all the CTO stuff, but he was also like the CEO, right? So I was like, "Hey, I'm from another country. I moved here. I like doing business. I'm going to get an international business degree." No idea what that really means. It's just a little bit of everything in business with like how to do it across borders. And it has no good starting point there's no like starting job for an international business degree. Like what? I don't know if you want to get into maybe import, export or something, but I ended up getting lucky and I got hired by Keynes University because they hire anybody with a college degree that can like meet their very stringent requirements and show an aptitude for learning how to do something. And I stumbled upon the amazing world of factory automation, which I had never heard of, never seen. I had never really been into a factory. And it wasn't until way later that I realized that my family, actually, I have a bit of a history. Like my parents met at a dairy that they used to work in the summertime. And my grandfather like made butter his entire life. But you just, as a kid, you don't really see those careers out there. You see like, you know, the stuff that's in popular media. And even though it was right in my backyard, I just didn't know. But that's so I started out even though I do have this business degree, I think I got kind of the engineering mentality from my dad. I love solving problems and helping people, and turns out sales engineering is pretty much that. You puzzle something together that works, and if it works well enough, then hopefully somebody buys it, right? I'm not an ABC person, like closing deals. Like, no, you got the wrong salesperson on your hands there.
Always closing.
So I did vision systems because that was the most complicated, difficult, masochistic like product line you could pick out of everything, right? It'll never work unless you get all of the pieces right, the lights and all of that. But I love that. And then I'm just a perpetually curious person. I couldn't stop at the application I was looking at. I would love to do line walks like Courtney mentioned. Courtney Fernandez, she was on one of our episodes recently when she was a systems integrator. They could just go into a plant and just look at the whole line and like make recommendations. And I just would always look upstream and downstream from what I was inspecting and go, oh, wouldn't it be cool if you could catch this earlier in the process? Or what happens after
notes, Nikki, on how to give you a job?
Like, what happens after I note that this is a bad part? We got to kick it out. Well, where do we kick it? What happens to it? And so I just made my way by, I love going to trade shows. So I, met some people through shows and stuff like that. I guess my first job after Keyence, I got recruited from LinkedIn to work at Festo. And so I got to learn all about pneumatics and electromechanical automation and drives. And like, it was just super cool. And I've sort of stumbled my way through things since then, taking whatever opportunity I think is interesting. I ended up in engineering software sales for prototyping, virtual prototyping of electronics, doing optimizations. And I immediately was like, whoa, you mean you don't have to make this thing and test it and then check it again and then make a change and then test it again, right? That seems amazing. You can use GPUs for that and just run a whole bunch of simulations. That's awesome. So I've just had, I always thought I would go back to school and get an MBA, but I've had way too much fun learning on the job in my weird career. And now I work for a startup that is doing supply chain stuff for industrial automation. So we have this huge disconnected sales channel of all these independent regional distributors that have a line card that carries some stuff. And they have warehouses, most of them in the back, with some stuff that they have in stock that usually most people don't know about except for their local customers. And right now with the world the way it is, connecting our supply chain is super important. We have more demand for automation than I think we can really fulfill right now. We have a lot of machines waiting to get out the door because something is missing. And that's really sad because we could all be doing more automation, I think, if we could get our parts together and help each other to ship those things out. So yeah, this is my second startup that I've worked on. I found that I'm just a crazy enough person that I do really well in like uncertain situations where you need a person that can wear a lot of hats and have a lot of ideas and is willing to test them out and fail and not have an ego about things. So, and I'm also very not concise. So I'll stop there.
No, definitely appreciate that. I think there's a lot to unpack in many directions we can go from there. I will make like one comment. I think that the Keyence sales program, I've heard a lot of good things from people who have been through it. And obviously on the end user side, sometimes they get pestered by it, but I think ultimately I would say it's a great way to learn like engineering sales, right? And I think not enough engineers have that skill set. And so I think like understanding sales and technology makes you really key to any organization, right? And I think
and what I love about their process is they don't just teach you the sales. Yeah, they do teach you that part, but they do want you to be an actual product expert. And that's why they split up their product lines. And that's why you have a bajillion Keyence people calling on you, because they all know what they do sell really well, or they should anyway. And they should be able to show up with their demo and solve your problem on the spot, or at least try, or take your...
That extra information that they give you, you could give that to everybody. It doesn't mean they'll be able to sell it.
True, right.
So that is still a natural thing to be able to sell anything, because most engineers suck at it.
But like for an engineering company like that to be able to say, hey, you're fresh out of college, we know you don't know our stuff, but we're going to put you through 6 months of learning it. And we're going to, it is like an extension of college because they quiz you and test you and like the whole 9 yards. It feels like you're continuing to go to school, but it's extremely valuable. And then, I was really lucky. Like my first territory was in included wine country, and wineries don't get called on, I think, too much by automation people, and they're super friendly, and they were all willing to take my, like beginner demos of machine vision.
Free samples.
Well, now we know who to call for business in the automation.
So speaking of wine country, did you call on the Gallo wineries while you were there, Nikki?
Yes.
Okay. So I met a bunch of those guys at Automation Fair a number of years back. They are the craziest group of people I think I have ever met, especially at the open bar. They really loved their job, at least the perks of their job, but they all seem to very much love their job and enjoy the spirits of their labor, if you will.
Yeah.
That's a good way to put it.
The samples with misplaced labels but good wine inside were
Yep.
definitely some of my favorite perks.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So we would like to talk a little bit about kind of the workforce and what your projections are in the workforce, and maybe kind of circle back to how do we get more people who look different, especially than Vlad and I, into the workforce. And I know, Nikki, we prepared you a little bit better than we prepared Allie for this question. So I'm going to let you go first and tell us kind of what your thoughts and projections like that look like, please.
Projections. Okay, so we are, I mean, the facts are the facts. We're going to have a workforce shortage for the foreseeable future. Demographics, right? People are retiring. There's not enough people to replace them. And the people that are available to work, why would they want to come into our industry when there are now 1,000 different ways to make money with an app from home, work in tech. I know there's a bunch of tech layoffs recently, but in general, like, manufacturing and automation has not been the industry du jour to go join when you're a smart person with a college degree, or even I think, service jobs in some cases are more attractive to people that don't have the education, because, it's like, oh, you're working at a Starbucks or something, you get to talk to people, and, you get good benefits and those sorts of things. Like we are at an extreme disadvantage in the manufacturing industry in terms of attracting quality talent. Unless, and a lot of us just kind of, we realize how much we love it once we're here, and we probably won't leave. But how do you get people from the outside to see that this is a really cool career? And that there are so many different ways to get into it too. I think it just, there's not enough about it in popular culture. People like me, right? I didn't have a predetermined idea of what I wanted to do. And it was just kind of happenstance that I was into kind of engineering, but not with an engineering degree. What do you do with that? I don't know exactly. And I lucked my way into this, but like, we're not going to get the people that we need with this, letting people luck into it and hoping that they do. So there's going to be a labor shortage in general, right? For all kinds of jobs. And B, we're going to have to compete with all those other industries for these people. So things are not looking great on that front. And we've been saying it for over 10 years and not much has changed. And now it's even worse. And like, what we have is a long-term problem in terms of people coming, like kids coming out of school. Most of them are not like me, where they're like, I have a degree, but I have no idea what I want to do. Like, they're going into nursing programs or different things where they have an idea of what their career is going to be. And so how do we solve that? Well, we happen to be in the industry that kind of solves it, which is automation. We just have to make it to where we can do more stuff with less people, for one. And two, that also helps attract people, because people don't want to work in outdated industries with crappy software and, no tools to do their job better. And, bad hours, bad benefits, bad working conditions. That's what's turning people away when they do know about our industry.
We can't yet promise non-crappy software, but we are getting there.
We're working on it, but then
slowly,
like the more people we get in that have some ingenuity and that are willing to shake things up and say, you know what, we've been doing it this way for 30 years, but we can't do it that way anymore. That changes things, right? So we need more agents of change so that we can attract more people. And that's my take on it, just, on a broad level.
Isha, what are your thoughts?
When I entered controls, that was exactly what was said to me. All the dudes, and they're mostly dudes, okay? There's plenty of women, but there's mostly dudes. The dudes are retiring, and we're scared, but we're going to put money into you guys who know nothing. So, and that is the only way to combat this. It's been happening for a while, but it needs to continue. Where, and mixed with, are you going to replace all those people with the same demographic? Probably not. In fact, that's what you kind of need to look at is mostly, you know, men really liked that job and they were, you know, pushed into the job or, you know, promoted or whatever. And now other people that are not them can be promoted into those jobs, but they don't even know that they exist. And that's a huge thing is, did you know that as a woman or a person of color or whatever can have these jobs and they make you really good money, but you have to know that they exist and even believe that society thinks you should even be there. So if you're going to have some kind of stigma related to like being a woman or anything of minority of any kind, then you're going to, you know, maybe shy away from that stuff, but it's ready for you now. Is there, you know, is there things you may need to teach your employer? Sure. But it's ready for you to start trying to build something for yourself. And if they, you know, they don't want you, you go to the next place. But there's a lot of really good jobs in manufacturing that are now open to everyone that it didn't used to necessarily be open to. And our job now, us four and any other people in our industry, is just to welcome them, tell them we want them here, and then show them what it looks like and show them what the rewards look like. You know, like you said, we want to show them there's money here to raise their families, to take care of their families. There's a challenge here to like make your brain better. And then there's just, you know, opportunity for glory. Some people just want glory. and there is that opportunity too. You can be a hero. Do you want to be a hero? Because some of these situations require heroes. They don't require someone who like calculated everything and they knew nothing was wrong. Like some of you need to take risks, and we need those people here too. So there's really like really great jobs for everybody. And at this point we are tasked with shoving that stuff all over social media, because that's the one of the ways that young people see what's even happening in the world. And so if they can see this and they see us, you know, maybe battling it out, and maybe we make, I saw a recent video that was like different kinds of engineers, and like one guy was just like saying mwah to like different objects, and it's like, okay, computer engineer, he just like kissed the computer, he's like mwah, and then civil engineer, and he like kissed a brick, he's like mwah. And then it was like time for electrical engineer, and he kissed wires, and then he turned into a skeleton because he like electrocuted himself. It was super funny, but like that's the kind of stuff that like gets kids thinking. They're like, you know, which one of these heroes do I want to be? That's what we have to do, is like make it look like that. Or it's like, you know, which superhero do you want to be? Well, which kind of engineer do you want to be? We could do this. We could make this something cool. But you're right. Like right now, it's just suffering because nobody knows, nobody cares, and that's why we're all here trying to have this conversation, because we do believe that we try to get these people in, but how do we get them here? And we can do it. We can show them the way, but we have to do that like for free for a while.
I'm certainly, you know, I was going to comment on that last point. Very surprised that, you know, we spend billions of dollars on marketing towards end consumers, right, when it comes to a manufacturing plant. But I feel that there's little effort, right? And at least in my conversations, it all comes down to there's IP at the factory floor. You know, this palletizer that's stacking a box on a pallet is completely proprietary. You cannot show that to anyone. And I'm just like, guys, like, how else do you want people to find out about these jobs? Like, you know, like really briefly, I didn't know what a PLC was until, you know, I got my first job in automation. I've never seen a PLC in college. No one ever mentioned controls. It was not even like on the job list that I was applying for. I just randomly sent out resumes at that time. But point is, when I walked onto the floor and saw like the robotics, the servo drives, the controllers, like I remember giving my 2-week notice to my previous employer immediately, right? But that place, You know, they would tell me like no cameras, no pictures, you can't share anything. Even though, again, I
That
think
doesn't help our
everybody,
industry.
huh?
No, it
We're
doesn't
the
help our
best
industry.
kept
You're right.
secret, right? Like, why would you
Yeah.
want to be a
Like,
secret,
cool,
dude?
I don't care. Yeah. Why would
It-
you care?
But most people understand that, right? Like on the floor, everyone's like, "Why would you care?" Like it's not a. Again, like you're not gonna be able to
Do you
reveal
care?
anything unless you're sending out like prints. Like I understand if you send out like schematics or prints or like software and you're openly sharing what that is, like sure there might be some liability there, but I don't know. I think they're doing themselves a disservice, right? Because they're not sharing the environments, they're not explaining like what the person is going to be working in. So people just don't know. I think it's literally just an awareness problem. Whereas like software companies, if you look at any one of them, right? Like pick like Facebook, Twitter, there's open software coming out of them every single year, you know, where I think it's like the front end frameworks on both Twitter, Facebook released them completely open. Anybody can use them. So obviously engineers are going to be using them in their projects, you know, during capstone, during the 4 years, college, whatever.
Mhm.
But in manufacturing, it's like, I would like to come see your facility. No. Can we see at least some pictures? No. What are you guys doing in there? Well, we're producing a good that you can find on the shelf at Walmart,
Yeah.
but it's a top
Look
secret.
up the manual and I'll show you what's there.
Right.
Yes.
But anyways, that's I think that will need to change for sure. But slowly, very slowly, I feel. Dave?
I've seen that these companies, these OEM companies are getting huge on paying influencers. So that wasn't something that they were normally used to, and like more and more are getting more comfortable being like, let's pay some of these people to talk about this industry out there where people are listening. So I mean it's changing, but it's slow.
Absolutely. I would say, I guess my perception from many conversations that I've had is manufacturing in general is not an industry that anyone would consider going to work in, right? So
Sexy.
I know people, right? I know people, especially like younger people who are talking to who are in their probably early 20s and maybe they went to college or maybe they did an internship and now they're either working at an end user somewhere or they're working for a systems integrator. And I know some of them whose like parents worked in these factories and they're like, yeah, dad always came back and he was tired and he smelled terrible because it was a paper factory or whatever. And why would I go to work there? Like, I only went to work there because it was an opportunity and they were going to give me a chance to do something. And I only committed to do it for like 6 months on this tiny project. And then I was going to go find something else. And then I got in and it was a great opportunity. So I think like the perception of manufacturing in general is the textile factories of like pre-industrial revolution 3 of where like
Yes.
people are losing arms. So
Mhm.
there are certainly not a lot of actual there's certainly not a lot of actual intellectual property that most people who couldn't just like go design the line to make the thing would be able to understand from some pictures, from some videos, from any of those things. There are certainly people who could reverse engineer a line from a picture or just by understanding how things go together. And just by understanding how things go together, like we could go build a box and put it in pallets, right? Like that is a fairly simple thing. Like we could go design some conveyors and make a box and fill the box with something and
But at that point,
go,
what are you hiding?
well, not much.
Pricing.
No.
That's the difference between you and them is pricing. Like nothing. You're hiding nothing.
Yeah, our
Absolutely.
industry traditionally
Absolutely.
has very much suffered from a lack of transparency. I think everyone feels like their competitive advantage is keeping things to themselves, whether it's their knowledge in how to program PLCs or the pricing of their solutions or how they architect things.
Yep.
And really what it means is that you're limiting your growth and your exposure to your word of mouth and who manages to knock on whose door or get in what relationship or meet whatever, like on the golf course. It is never anything that will then expand. And as this population of people that are passing this information to each other with the handshake is shrinking, the opportunity for the entire industry is shrinking along with it.
I see a lot of that.
Absolutely.
I see a lot of don't share your success. People will just, either use it against you or steal it. It's like, seriously? How if I listen to any of this crap that's on here, I can't help anyone.
Or
But
people tell
they're
Allie,
just like,
oh,
don't help anyone. Don't help
don't
anyone.
encourage people to start their own businesses. They could lose their livelihood. Like you're
I
going to be
did hear that.
responsible.
I was told that I could ruin people's lives if I encouraged them to start their own business. Well, let me tell you something. There were people who encouraged me to do this, what I did, and if I failed, it's not their fault. I took my risk with my business. So I don't like when people are trying to transfer that type of like liability, because I'm saying this is possible and this is how I did it. And a lot of people can share that, and it will never mean that everyone who tries it will make it. It will never mean that. And I'm not sad or like disappointed in myself because you didn't follow very, very general advice that I gave. Like, I didn't tell you how, so it's just really depressing that people are like trying to put that kind of pressure on the creators, because you should try to do some of the stuff we do, and especially try to create content and like share with each other and learn. But you should definitely not try to blame anyone for your failure in business or in anything, because we're all in the same boat there. Mostly, maybe your dad or your grandpa is like a legacy billionaire, but outside of that, the rest of us are just, we're just trying. We're just doing trial and error, and we have bad months. I have bad months. I have months where I'm waiting for my check and I'm like, I feel really nervous right now. But I'm a new business. So, am I going to sit here and be like, I always have such a huge buffer. I'm going to be rich forever. I can't even begin to pretend that that's where I am, but I'm really proud of myself that I can hold myself up without a W-2 job. So that to me is like, okay, can I grow myself into a better spot? Maybe, maybe not. Maybe I'll fail everyone. But you know what? I'm going to try, and I'm enjoying this. And I'm going to tell you what does work, because I like sharing. And maybe one of you, maybe I fail really bad and one of you gives me a job. Cool.
But what does it say about our industry? Like each one of you, think about it. If you met somebody random at a party, like, or whatever, it's your family friend or your neighbor down the street, and they ask you what you do, like, how much time do you need to explain what you do? And I learned very early on that I used to say, oh, I sell robots and stuff. I honestly haven't touched a robot like ever. I don't sell robots. It's just like, I don't have an hour to explain to you what controls is and what factory automation is. So I'm going to pick the closest thing that a random person would know. And it's a robot, which is like just funny coming from the industry, right? That's what we say, but like, that's how little there is to know about what we do.
Yeah. HMI, nobody cares. Nobody cares.
I tell people that I sell light bulbs because everyone knows what a light bulb is.
Okay, yeah, right?
Yes, so it's it's a long time joke within my family. So my dad is tangentially in the same industry, and so for a long time, my mom has like been trying to learn, and I have drawn her diagrams in the past to try to help her understand how we connect things. And so most of the time, she'll just like hold up the piece of paper that I've drawn the diagram on how we connect the PLC to the HMI. And so at some point my dad worked at a company, and they had a desk and they sold light bulbs, and it just became easier to tell people that we just sell light bulbs because everyone knows what a light bulb is.
Yep,
absolutely.
I don't know, I gave up trying to answer that question. I just default to like, I program computers and that control manufacturing processes. I guess my first job, really interestingly, it was for Tampax. So people would ultimately assume, again, it's a very manual process, and I'm like, no, like, I do the automation side with and I take care of everything
one at a time into the box.
Right.
Yes.
So I like, again, I just like
service.
Right. So but anyways, like,
the population appreciates what you do, Vlad.
Yes.
Exactly. So those who knew what the product was really appreciated. And they certainly appreciated the samples, right? Because we would get a lot of product to give away. But the point is, it was very difficult to explain what the control systems are, because ultimately there's very few videos, right? They're very secretive about the
If you
process.
make toilet paper or any of the other like things that we have to have, we even
Mhm.
fight about it during the pandemic. I mean, there's so much basic, consumer goods that we need to have, and then we just like totally disregard once we think about the back end. Oh, toilet paper, who cares how that's made? Oh, you
Right.
care.
Like supply
Yep.
chain, everybody finally knows what that word is now, but up until like a couple of years ago, what it just shows up at the shelf, right? Like there's a truck or something.
Mhm.
Like who has to think about
Yeah.
that?
Boring.
Absolutely. I will make the comment to any OEMs out there. If you are interested to kind of pull back at least some of what you're doing and show what the plant floor looks like and how things work, some combination of the four of us would like to come and do that
Yes.
tour and make a video of that tour, or do a live show, or some combination thereof. If you are willing to do that, I know that at best there might be one of you. We'll go through the process and sign the NDAs and do the lawyer things. And
Yes.
6 months from now, we can all show up and figure out what that looks like. But
And
it's
we'll
always
cut a
fun.
3-minute video that
It's all
shows the things that they're allowed to see. But hey,
yes,
it'll be worth it. We'll do it
absolutely,
anyway.
It is worth it.
absolutely,
Everyone uses the same
absolutely.
stuff. That's not, I mean, me looking at, a couple controllers doesn't tell me what the controllers are doing. Even if I show you the HMI, it doesn't prove anything.
No,
Never
no,
know. We might copy that
absolutely
HMI
not.
screen and put it in our
Please
process.
do. It has my logo.
Oh, very nice. Yes, the turbo incubator, is
I
that
put
what I
my
remember what you're
logo on
calling them?
everything. And today I was fighting because I was trying to put it on a panel view 800.
Yeah.
These are Siemens, which were way easier, by the way. No, I'm just kidding. But I was trying to put it on a panel view 500 and I couldn't, 800, and I couldn't firmware flash it. So I'm still working on that, but it's just the same struggle, man.
We have the latest and greatest software. Don't tell anybody otherwise.
Man.
It's amazing.
Yes. Yeah.
Join us.
At some point in our lifetimes, the software may work, period, much less work well.
Well, this
Yes.
is one of the things that the younger kids are getting really mad about, because they are like all Python geniuses and they want to make everything super fast. And then they're like, it didn't flash.
Well, yeah, and then like you can do everything that you do with the PLC with a microcontroller and like a whole bunch of other stuff, right? That's so much more accessible. It's so much more affordable. You can learn on your own. And then in our industry, we're like, no, it's, and there's a whole lot of reasons, right? Why, in an industrial setting, maybe those things don't, are not to be used for 20 years in a plant. But I think that, the attitude of just no, it just turns people off. It turns young people off. You need to have a pathway to get from learning one to learning the other. Even my dad, who, he's not a factory automation guy, he's an IoT guy. He runs installations of data collecting stuff in oil fields, and he's had microcontrollers out in the field for 15 years. And they work in rugged industrial, and he builds everything like that. I think of, I mean, granted it's small stuff and it's different, right? But he's got, a motor controller. All of it is on a little PCB board that he puts in his own housing, and, he ships that out. And like, yeah, you could do that with the PLC, but it's going to take up a lot more space. It's going to need a whole cabinet. It's way more expensive. There are applications where you don't need to necessarily run something like a Siemens or an AB PLC. But I think just
we're the
lack of sharing and innovation in the industry makes it as such that it's a much more polarized conversation than I think it needs to be.
I think millennials are the last generation to say, okay, I'll do it.
Yeah, okay, I'll do
they don't
your
do it
ladder
anymore.
logic.
They're like, I don't want to do this. They're angry now. Before we're like, well, I still want to eat, and like, okay. And like, we are that last generation. We're like, I really want to eat still. But those kids after us, they've been eating. They're not afraid to be hungry. And they're ready to tell you no to your entire platform. And I'm kind of waiting to see what that looks like, because they're going to inundate our field with whatever they have to offer, right? Because they're the youngest group, and good luck to us making them happy, because we can, for the most part, and it looks like that's what we're going to do, piss them off.
Yeah, and if we want them to come work for us too, like the old, I was just at an A3 business forum, A3 association last week, and it's a lot of the people that are in charge, right? Mostly older people that, you know, executives in this industry. And one of the presentations that we got that was really valuable is from an economist, you know, talking about all the economisty things about the economy. I'm giving you a super good technical rundown of that one. No, but one of the things that he said is that, you know, with the labor shortage, the way that it is, right? And the way that our economy is going to go. So yeah, soft recession, you know, starting this year, probably next year, but we're not going to see a big recession or, you know, anything like that until like 2030 in terms of big impact.
2030.
The prediction.
Damn.
Yeah. But that's when we're going to see some serious, that's maybe the place where we're going to, you know, we're going to have enough people for our jobs. But up until then, we're looking at this, you know, whole labor shortage because of demographics and all kinds of other things. But a sentiment I hear from these executives sometimes is, oh, you know, when I was coming up, when I was in, you know, making my dues in the industry, I had to spend the time away from my kids and miss their baseball games and travel all the time. And, you know, that's just what you do. And that's just what you put up with. And these young people, they don't want to do it. They're so entitled and they're so lazy. And it's like, yeah, you can say that all day long. And these people are going to say no to your job opening when you tell them that that's what they have to do. Because there are so many more options now.
Yeah, if there's
our
any
industry.
other job for them, you lost them.
Just any other job.
If
like literally, why?
That even pays the same or a little bit more, a little bit less. You lost them. You lost
our
them.
industry doesn't even pay well for having to put up with that kind of thing.
Don't say that, Nikki.
No, I mean, relative to other things it does, yes. But if you're literally saying you're going to have a terrible job with a lot of jet lag, time away from your kids, you're going to be breaking your back, sitting on a bucket, programming a PLC over like 6 weeks at a client, you know, somewhere in the Midwest in the cold. And that's just what you're going to have to put up with. Like, why would somebody do that? They would have to be crazy enough to be hooked on it already. It's not something that you sell with or that you lead with. And that's unfortunately, like, I think HR too has a long way to catch up to realize that they need to make their jobs attractive, not just think that the workforce out there is just going to be grateful to have a job. I mean, I talked to one of the big brands that we, you know, partner with that has a lot of sensors and things. They have 114 open job openings right now that they can't fill. And they're not even in the factories. They're in the sales, you know, in the factory automation. I mean, they're not the dirty jobs. They're just straight up, our industry is hurting for people.
Mm-hmm.
And they can't fill the jobs.
Hey, on the plus side, if I can maybe counter some of those arguments, I see a lot more remote jobs posted, especially, you know, like on the higher end, like programming stuff, like SCADA, MES. I think like they finally understood that they need to give remote access. You know, we've put in the right cybersecurity to some extent measures in place. There's a lot more of that than there was at least like 2-3 years ago, right? So I think
those are going to be the winners. Those are going to be the ones that actually attract the talent. Mm-hmm. Not the ones that are posting the same job description from 10 years ago at a pay that's not much better than it was 10 years ago.
The insurance is nuts.
I would agree. I think that we need to do more to make the jobs attractive. And there is a very small subset of people who are willing or happy to travel 40 to 70% plus of the time. And that's why I think we burned so many people in this industry out in the first 6 months, right? So how many people, okay, yeah, well, Allie's like always on the airplane. But I think like there are some people who love being the road warriors and are happy to be gone 70% of the time mostly they're probably I think they're running away from something else. But there are some people who love to do it, but that's what, like 2% of the population. It's not reasonable to expect people to be willing to travel 70% of the time.
Especially these people are married, but they have to have special, like, I guess, you know, they're not going to see their loved ones that often, and they are okay with that, but everybody understands that, and it is a very different life if you're willing to go that separated. Most people don't want to do that. They have too much in their family invested, because most people do value their family more than their job, and that's not a bad thing at all.
No.
Right. I've only lasted 3 years in that venture. 90% travel is pretty difficult. So
Yeah, Vlad, your travel was kind of insane. I've told you that before in less nice ways, but I wouldn't do it. Yeah, I wouldn't do it at this point. And again, there are some people out there who do it, who enjoy doing it, and I don't know how they keep their sanity or their family together or their laundry washed for all of those matters. But if it works for them, good on them. But kind of going back to Nikki's point, I think we need to find more work-life balance. And if we are going to ask or demand to have people travel that much, we need to give them equal amounts of vacation or money or some combination thereof to make up for everything that they
those teams specifically that are always traveling, they super benefit from real numbers in their team. If your team is 2 people, you are screwed. Like, and because that one guy is going to be needed all the time, you can never do your vacation. You need teams that are bigger, and it's hard to know. Like, when you join a team, right? You don't ask them like, how many more of there are me so that I can take my vacation. Maybe you should ask that, because that is a really important thing that's going to affect your life. I've been on teams where they did have enough people, but that's so freaking rare. So be careful where you go, because maybe what you're doing is applying for a job where you are the guy and nobody else can do it. It could be a girl too. You are the girl, but it doesn't matter. You're the person, and no one can relieve you of your high-end duties, and then you can't go on vacation ever. So is that awesome? No, you don't want that like life. You want that life where you're like, Bob and Steve and Karen can take over if I'm going on vacation, and I'm going to pick my favorite. I like Karen, and I'm going to give Karen all my overtime. If you can have a situation like that where there's others that can do your job, you want that. And that's another reason why you want to teach people how you do you. Yeah. Because there's a big problem in this industry where everyone's like, I can't tell anyone anything because they will steal my job. No, they won't. They need both of you to know how to do that. Okay?
Yes.
And it seems like it'd be nice if it was just you who knew how to do that, but it's actually a huge pain in the butt, because they're going to call you 800 times because no one else knows how to do your job. So start teaching people.
I know an OEM where the guy literally kept the bomb in his head. Like, he knew he didn't have an Excel sheet of a bill of materials for a machine. He's like, oh, it's all right here. And I'm like, dude, and you are how old? He was like probably in his 60s at least at this point. And I talked to the CEO, and I was like, I not to tell you anything about how to run your business here, but do you realize that so-and-so does not have the parts for the machine written down anywhere? Like, you probably want to document that a little bit before something happens.
Yes. And I think the secret that no one is saying to those people who feel like everyone is trying to steal their jobs is literally no one wants their job. Like the job that we're trying to hire for is the person 3 levels below the person that you are, that one day may want. Only when you think about it that much, but because that is,
there were people that thought I was going to take their job, and it was like, there's no way for me to do that. Like, even as smart as I am, like, I can't take that from you. And I learned so much from them just screaming at me for everything I did wrong. It was just like, this could have been different, and I hope that it will be different in the future, but we need to make these people feel better, because we really aren't going to take away their jobs just like they think. It's not that simple. We wish it was. And so do the managers. The managers are like, oh yeah, what's his name's on his way out, so let's put 2 guys there. Like, they're gonna fail. They're gonna fail hard, unless that one guy's gonna show them what to do. So you need to beg that one guy, please, I don't know, give him more money and whatever, give him a bonus, but like make him teach those people, because when he's gone, you're screwed.
I would honestly say, if I can comment on that, it's almost the opposite, right? And I had this experience early on in my career where there was this guy they would fly out. I'll say his name, Dennis, who would come in and fix all machinery, like the toughest of the toughest problems. And from what I was told, right, because I was still like 6 months in, I was just learning. They would tell me like he would never tell you anything. You have to like really build a relationship with him to even get any information out of him. Long story short, obviously, he refused to teach me anything at that time. And I remember like my only effort, just like we talked about the switches having names of like don't hack me or anything like that. My only effort was put into I'm gonna learn this system better than him so that we could get rid of him, right? Like that was like my only purpose. Because you know what I mean? Like it's frustrating to not know what's going into like programming these systems, and I just want to understand. So I'm like, okay, well, like this stuff, I understand it, but I'm fine leaving it to you because obviously, like you spent a lot of time and effort. But if I have no idea what's going on and I'm trying to, like support the system, and again, like I can go in like many parallels, right? But even like OEMs, sometimes they think that I'm going to reverse engineer, and this factory that produces meat products is now going to start producing like slicers on the side. I'm like, guys, like I have zero like intention to like start like a new like I literally just want to support this machine, and it frustrates me more than anything else that I'm like locked out just for that purpose of being locked out, right? Like it's anyways, but that's not to go on like a huge rant about our industry. I think that it certainly can be changed. I think there's a lot more like open platforms in general, and I think like OEMs understand that again slowly but surely better. But I think it will take time before it changes. And same with the mentality, right? Like we talked about people retiring and kind of going away from these jobs. I think the younger mentality is a lot more around like collaboration and sort of like being open in what they do, and they understand that like if I'm an engineer that can automate myself out of the job, then I essentially get promoted to lead many engineers. You know what I mean? Like that's kind of the way I see it. It's never like, oh, if I automate, like they're like, oh well, Vlad, like yeah, exactly.
Oh, thanks, Vlad. Like we're gonna lay you off now.
Right, right. Because if I
you
can
have
do
to be
that,
careful, because in sales, it's not how that works. If you're too good at sales, normally you get like what is it called? They make new quotas for you. They're like, oh well, you're a little bit too good, so
you're making too much money.
We need you
now
to
we're
teach
gonna
everybody.
cut back.
And you're like, nah.
Yep.
We're gonna recomp you, and then guess what?
Bleh.
Of course, that person is gonna move on. Like, what the heck is that? Can we not see how we were all really successful together last year? That was actually one of my complaints about being a quota carrying salesperson. It really encourages short-term thinking.
Mm-hmm.
And because I've never been driven by that, it was different for me than a lot of my colleagues. But like I still get phone calls from people that I didn't sell anything to 10 years ago because they appreciated that versus me just pushing to sell something that wasn't the right fit at the right time or whatever. And we got to think long term.
You don't want that like opportunist stigma.
No.
Nikki just wants to make a dime. Nobody
and that's
thinks
what you
that,
get
but
when you get somebody that's really good that like overshoots their goal, and then you punish them for it by making them
messed up.
Yeah, like it just is the reverse. And I see this as well with people thinking like with DEI efforts, and I use this term like not as a program but just in general, like trying to make yourself more attractive, for instance, to women or minorities, right? Representation. It isn't just about attracting women and minorities anymore. Younger boys, people of any kind, if they look at a company and say this place is old school and it's not diverse and it's not welcome to all kinds of people, then I don't want to be there either, even if they're the demographic that is represented, because our younger people think so differently about the world than we do. They've been connected from day one. They realize that we're all the same, right? They have friends from all over the world, from all walks of life.
The internet.
They can meet in a Discord of a game that they like, and it has nothing to do with what they look like or where they're from. And so this whole idea of like us segmenting ourselves and, saying, oh, we don't, whatever, we're going to pander to women, or like that whole attitude of like, we don't need to do that. It turns off more people than you think, I think, not embracing the change.
And
I would agree with
people
this.
see it. They know what you're doing. That's the
Yeah.
other thing is if you think you're hiding that generalness, you're not. So be careful what you're doing.
I think all of these are really good. I think all of these are really good points. We do have to take a moment out of this to thank our sponsors. And this episode is brought to you by Profit by Design, which is us, Vlad and I. Profit by Design is designed to answer the questions: how can I run more efficiently? How can we become more profitable? And how can I retain my good employees? It's a 3-day process in which we work with your employees to understand the expensive problems that happen on the floor and create solutions that are net profitable in the first 12 months. Typical results are 20 to 100x return on investment, and we've got a stack of case studies from prior projects in our careers that are net $1 million of profit or more. If you're looking to run more profitably and figure out how to retain your employees, check us out at profitbydesign.io. That's profit, the letter X, design.io, or drop Dave me a message. And now with that, I actually want to go get to a question that was back like many minutes of conversation ago, but the conversation has been so good, I haven't been able to get it to. So Christy is in the comments. She wants to know what type of PLCs do you have on the board behind you, Allie? And as Allie's going through that, I want to play the most favorite game that I play with Vlad. So as Allie points to what she has, I want Vlad to also point to the same thing on his board. I do it at least once a quarter, in which I just ad hoc demand Vlad points at things. And so I'm very happy that we can do this. If anyone is listening to this in podcast format, I would absolutely suggest you guys come check the video, especially at the beginning, just to see Vlad's face of complete distress as we're going into that. But no, with that, Ellie, I'm gonna be quiet and let you tell us what you have behind you.
Okay, well, so I'm looking at Vlad's and like my Control Logic's chassis isn't behind here, so we're not going to do that one. It's actually in front of me, but I was trying to figure out how I was going to mount that thing, and it's so heavy that like I can't really put it anywhere that is good. So, but what I do have behind me is I got this one. So, and it's a 850, but it's one of the 850s that has like a lot more IO, like a lot. We're talking 20 outputs and 28 inputs. One of the big ones.
Oh, I think I have the smaller version, like the 830, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, it looks like you have that one. Yep. Okay. And then I have a safety version of the S7 1200 Siemens. Oh yeah, he's got the yellow. So the yellow is how you can tell that that's the safety one. And then I have a regular S7 1200. You don't have a regular one? You
so
have
disappointing.
A safety one? Weird. So that's actually the first one that I ever bought in a what's it called? Starter kit. My first starter kit ever was that one, and it was so cheap. I was like, this is insane. Because I could get the PLC, the HMI, and the licensing for $600. And I was like, that's gnarly. So then this is the HMI that actually did come with that. It's like a 4-inch that comes with this. And then I got crazy and I wanted an analog card. So I wanted analog in and out. So I bought some extra cartage here for myself. And then this is a not the newest one. What is like the version right before the newest? Comfort. This is a Comfort HMI panel. That's a 7, I think. Yeah, 7-inch Comfort panel. And then below that is a S7 1500. Most of this is Siemens stuff, except when you get to like the light gray. But the blue stuff is Siemens that I really like. I don't have any power flexes or remote IO like he has, except I do have, I guess, remote IO in a Control Logic's chassis, but you can't see it. And then I have the only VFD I have is a WEG, Brazilian. And it I just have like the analog IO card like snapped on top of it, so it doesn't have communications yet. But it's just like it's tiny for a 0.5 horsepower motor that I have.
Interesting.
And then I do have down here, it's hard to see, but I have IO Link by Balluff, the Slate or the Master. And I got my favorite terminal blocks, which is the push-in type from Phoenix Contact.
Phoenix, nice.
And yeah, so I have a couple PLCs. I got 4 PLCs up here and 2 HMIs. And I was trying to get the Panel View 800 working today, but I couldn't flash it. So I'm still working on that. But that's what I have.
Yeah, maybe we'll need to set you up with some PLC Next. I think from Phoenix Contact. Those are interesting PLCs. So
I like all kinds of
Vlad, do you want to update everyone on how many PLC Next are currently by your feet?
well, I have a total of 3, but that's because like I was hey, there's some interesting Modbus communications that you can do between them. But
Yep.
yeah, they're
So hold on, Vlad.
Go ahead,
I want to go pimp the Solus PLC. Everyone check out solusplc.com. Vlad and Phoenix Contact built a PLC Next course last year. So Vlad just doesn't have a bunch of PLC Next floating around just fun. Mostly for fun, but also some of it is work.
yes, that is correct. Thank you, Dave.
Is
I
that
appreciate
what is that up by like the Stratic switch in the top right? So
it. That's the OPTO 22. So it's their like Groove Epic and Groove Rio controllers.
It looked like Delta V. I was like, but that's small. Okay.
They I like the form factor, right? So
They're very small.
Beautiful.
they're also really cool because it has a full configuration screen on the front, and you can create like a mini HMI from that
That is nice.
PLC. So
Mhm.
The closest
it's
I know of that is like Siemens being able to like put a picture on here.
Mhm.
Yeah, regular.
But yeah, I
PLCs
think
don't have
it's
all
really
that.
cool.
My favorite part about them, I was gonna say some of my favorite part about the Opto 22 stuff is you can get universal I/O, which is my favorite type of I/O, and I wish everyone would go to universal I/O because it would just save all of us a bunch of struggles, because you never have enough of whatever you're currently working on, and you never spec'd out the PLC with enough extra capacity or cards. So you're always one short, and then no one ever has it, and then the end user is always very upset that it's an extra like $12,000 of cards at the very end because we were so close but didn't have enough to do this upgrade.
And maybe those who are not familiar with Universal I/O who are listening to us right now, it's essentially configurable inputs and outputs. So you have one channel that can be set as an input and output. It could be voltage, it could be current, digital analog. So there's a lot of variations.
But you don't have to buy the same OEM as your controller.
Right.
That's what the open part is, where you may have Allen Bradley all kinds of control, but you buy non-Allen Bradley. That's what the open part is. Because normally without that open part, you have to buy the same of everything. You have to buy I/O and everything by one vendor. And now we're opening it up, which we all love that. And we're getting more and more open, but Open I/O has been a thing that existed where you could buy Wago or Phoenix Contact or all these different, vendors that don't necessarily make control. Now they do, but before they weren't making controllers and they were just making I/O that was compatible with existing PLCs. So it's really cool that now that's exploding, but also that's still really like accessible technology, especially when you're screwed on supply chain problems, which is everyone's problem now.
Yeah, not only is it expensive to add I/O after the fact if you didn't, and the other thing is like, why would you want to be stuck with your initial design when you know that you can improve your systems over time and add things and you add to a line? Like adding I/O seems like one of those things that you would never want to be hardwired stuck with a previous design. But not only can you, like not afford the extra I/O, but you can't get it even if you could pay for it.
Or you don't have space, which is a different issue. But
yeah,
you can make it all work.
I'll tell you why, because we've always done it that way.
Right.
Ew, no one likes that.
Oh, Vlad's favorite thing.
Well, everybody's favorite buzzword in our industry 4.0. I apologize, I forget who posted this, but he was like, you shouldn't be talking about industry 4.0 if you don't know what this is. And it was ducting, wireway in a panel, because you can't get any data anywhere if you don't have, controls and panels and those sorts of things. But those are the basic building blocks of what we do, and they're just not cool anymore, or they never were, right? But they should be. They can be.
I'm not sure they were.
I was looking at stuff yesterday. Do you have in your mind let's say you knew how the amount of space that you were going to take up with like all your drives and your PLC? What is your gut guess as to the vault, like the area of your back panel that is wireway?
That is, you mean like
20%?
wire trays?
Like like the wireways, like panduit. How much panduit's going to take up your area? Like how much area do you lose traditionally when you do some area? Like, is there a percentage that you like to go to? Because I've been trying to create that number for me just to get like easy, numbers, and I came up with like take your HMI, no, so take your PLC, whatever the cards are going to be, and then take your if you have VFDs or starters or whatever's going to take up space there, and then I said something like double that almost to come up with space for everything else and to like space that stuff. And at first I was like, it's probably 20% of the total backplane, but it is you can't ignore that volume because you need it. So you really want to go a little bit bigger. So I guess, do you have any numbers you like to use or rule of thumbs or any kind of backup information that you would use in that case?
So look, so wire trays.
Wireway behind you.
So yeah, I actually made a comment on a post that I wish I had installed it, and now I'm like kind of like regretting not having it. So I guess like for this, I should probably have installed it, but in a typical automation panel, I think like 30% to 40 is what I would like to see. I'm also, like I'm, how to say it, like maybe a bit different in that way where I like to spec a lot more than what I'm going to use, just because I've been in many situations where I would be asked like, hey, can we add this? Can we add that? We didn't account for like a bunch of devices here and there. And so I always like to over design panels to like accommodate even more. People would tell me like 20% like extra, let's say like on the IO. I would literally double the rack because the rack is so cheap compared to us having to add like another panel, and those extra cards, they're like $300 to $500 even from the most expensive vendors. And if they are left as like empty slots, I don't care at all because I can always put them in. But once the rack is of a certain size and it just fits that small panel, it becomes very difficult to add anything else. So, and again, look, it depends on what industry you're in. I know I've been in food and bev a lot, so the space constraint hasn't been there, and we can always spend a little bit extra to have those cards just sitting there. But I know if there's
in
price
stainless
constraint,
panels.
yeah, I mean that's a whole other issues, right? Like electronics don't like being hosed down, and moisture is a factor, and but see, that's the point. Like I've also seen so many failures that I like to have like, let's say, the extra card so that whoever's on maintenance can just like swap out the one that is working, right? So anyways, like my philosophy has always been to like upsize almost to the extreme. I would take the biggest rack because I know even the price difference between like a 4-slot chassis to like a 13-slot chassis, it's not, it's not X per slot. It's just like a little extra to get the larger one. So but that's just me. So take it for what it is, and that's been the standard for me in food and bev. But elsewhere, it might be different. Yep.
Thank you,
Dave. What are your thoughts? Electrical panels.
I have very few thoughts on electrical panels, Vlad, other than I generally don't like to go in them, and it is my goal not to get electrocuted on site. So my Dave's rule for almost my entire career is I generally don't do electrical work on site. I'm happy to go pay other people to go do electrical work on site. I have worked with a couple of groups that have built panels, and I let the experts deal with that, right? There are some things that I'm very good at. I will go spec out PLCs and things like that. When it gets to electrical panels, I am more than happy to let the professionals who do it more than twice a year or consider it more than twice a year go ahead and get in on it. I would imagine that there are a bunch of softwares. I know that there are softwares now that you can go design it much nicer than originally when I started. So I guess I worked for a distributor manufacturer's rep that was originally created in like think the early 50s, and for a large majority of that time, they had a panel shop that was part of it and then got sold off and was in the basement of that facility for virtually the entire time. So one time as we were going to move buildings, I walked into this strange room in the basement and I just kind of opened a drawer and there was just a stack like 8 inches deep of hand-drawn electrical panel drawing. And I'm like, wow. I would not, yeah, I would not have considered this, and I'm sure Allie will absolutely hate this. So the guy who ran it, his name is Mike, really good guy, loves talking to people so much that, as I've been told, when he worked there in the basement, he would go upstairs to the kitchen to get a cup of coffee. But instead of putting the coffee into his cup, he had to preheat it with hot water so that by the time he made it back down to the basement, he still had warm coffee in his cup because he just spent that long talking to everyone. And apparently they did basically production builds for a large HVAC company, and they would do the same production build, I don't know, somewhere between 50 and 100 times a year. But every single time one of those production builds came in, Mike would go lick his fingers, pull out a brand new piece of paper, he designed the panel from scratch every time. So if anyone has ever if anyone has ever been into multiple HVAC panels, that you're like, oh, this should be exactly the same, and they're not, and they're, I don't know, more than 20 years old, you can thank Mike, because same components, he just kind of tweaked it a little bit every time. Could not consider running production. Mike, a very good engineer, not a very good production line manager. We're getting ready to run close on time. Vlad, do you have any other questions, any other topics that we should bring up before we go and close off what has been a very, very fun conversation so far?
I do want to bring up another topic based on what we've just discussed. So, health, safety, and environment in manufacturing, right? So, again, working in electrical panels, I want to say could be extremely dangerous. Are you seeing any trends, with all the new labor that we're bringing into the market? Are those best practices improving? Are they still the same? Are we training, the new people, again, that we're recruiting who are younger on the best practices? Are you seeing an improvement from a safety standpoint when it comes to manufacturing?
I can take a stab at that. So not yes for tradespeople, no for engineers. That's where that's where it's still messed up, I think, because we know from like the way that we do our standards that we're going to teach the tradespeople specific, especially like what is it, NFPA 70E is like arc flash. So we teach electricians that. We keep failing to teach engineers that, and they are messing inside of those things. So inside of the panels, are they bringing brand new breaker, power to the panels? No. But
Hopefully
after
not.
those people who do understand that bring power to the panel, we are letting engineers touch that without making sure that they know all the various ways to die. And so that to me is not growing fast enough. So we need to like kind of say, never mind who you are, and make everyone take that stuff. Because even if, like, I don't know, some of this stuff is simple enough where non-electrical trades could at least sit through it and hear it. And I don't think that's even going to hurt any companies where they do like move around control panels, or maybe you're in HR and you just work with a bunch of people who could electrocute themselves. Would it be so bad if you learned, some NFPA 70E, because then you can scare those people and you're like, oh my God, you can die all these ways. And, it's just more notice to everybody, not just the people who are going to maybe risk their lives. But I myself, I was never taught anything about arc flash before I was inside of a lot of control panels with 480 volts. And at one point I almost touched, I believe I touched it, but it was more like when it arced, the arc kind of put air on me and I thought it touched me, but basically like I shouldn't have even dealt with something like that. But the contractors had already put power to it and it was my responsibility and I forgot. that I turned that on. So I went to go change out like an overload, one of those breakers for a motor, and I undid it because I had a nice screwdriver that was insulated, and then I went put my hand in there to pull on the leads that were live that I didn't remember were live, and that was one of my closest encounters with death, but also just I was alone. So if something had happened to me, I'd be down there for hours before anyone was like, "Oh, I think Allie died." Like it was so messed up, and it was my fault, but at the same time, how do we prevent this? And it's you scare the people, but you teach them all of the real rules. Because I mean, I didn't even have a set of rules. I just had like, well, make sure it's off. Just my own like. It wasn't a ground set of rules that like everyone was following, and that's what it should be, and that's what we have available. So, to me, that's my big like takeaway is like, are we teaching everybody? I think we're teaching a lot of people, but we're not teaching everyone, and we are forgetting that engineers can kill themselves. What are we're so worried about like the tradespeople because we're like, oh, we can't let them hurt themselves. Like, well, you better be careful because you think those smart kids know stuff and they can hurt themselves too. So
I think the idea is educating the people that are supposed to be working on it, right? That's what we do. But the reality is a lot of people that aren't supposed to be working on things do, and if they have no clue of the dangers, then they're not going to do so responsibly. And this again goes to transparency, right? And just sharing of information. Why would it be so bad to educate everyone that walks into a plant about how to be safe there? Like as a sales engineer, I walked into a lot of plants.
Amen.
All I was told was, don't wire anything because we don't have the insurance for that. I wasn't told don't wire things because you could hurt yourself or others. And this is how, that happens. And, yeah, mostly I was dealing with 24-volt power supplies and stuff like that. I didn't wire customers' things, but I wired my own things and my little demo kit. But
some girl told me once that she was like, oh, it looked loose. And I tried to tighten this on a transformer and she shocked herself. And I'm like, oh my God, and that was on a job. She was a mechanical engineer. She shouldn't have been touching any of that shit. But we don't know this stuff. So these young people are doing things out there that like they could end up dying from. And we're just getting lucky and hoping, well, I hope she learned her lesson. Like, are we teaching everybody or not? And I feel like
good employees will do things that aren't in their job description. If they see something that needs to be done, and they will step up and help, as they should, as a good, like, workplace of people that are motivated for the mission rather than just what they get paid for. They should be stepping out of their way to do things that maybe that are a little out of their job description. But that's exactly why we got to train everybody. Same thing with cybersecurity. You don't have to be the cybersecurity officer at a company. You should know basic things about cybersecurity and how you as an employee, no matter what you do, how you fit into that. Everybody needs a basic knowledge of that stuff.
Yeah, I'm curious to see, again, like what's going to happen in the industry. I think until we have maybe major incidents, it's one of those like cost centers, kind of like fallacies where until something happens, we don't want to put money into it. I've had some conversations around it because, again, a lot of like younger people are stepping into these roles, and I think they're not taught in school about electrical safety, right, at all. I've never had any mention of that personally, and so it's difficult, right? It's how to say it, like in the best case you have a really good mentor that kind of explains to you what it is, right? But outside of that it becomes really up to you, and I think it's unfortunate because you're only going to learn from mistakes. And I remember, when I was interviewing and mostly like techs and entry-level engineers, and my biggest concern was, I understand they have the knowledge. I'm like, I can teach you on the technical side, but I'm very scared if I let you loose, after some period of training, you're just gonna go like open panels. So like my first questions were around like, do you understand kind of the danger you're in when you're opening some of these 480-volt panels? Because until then, I think they do a lot of like hobbyist electronics, right? Like they play with like Arduinos, Raspberry Pis, and all kinds of things like that. Maybe like robotics, if they did that. But industrial safety, I think, is a how to say, like a not nearly enough discussed topic, I think. But
yeah, we're being weird.
So
and just
hopefully,
electrician.
hopefully on a slightly lighter note that doesn't include any more stories about how any of us almost died. Allie, you're rocking the safety vest. I feel like Vlad has set me for this, and I would be negligent in my co-hosting duties if I didn't ask you to tell us how you trying to make safety vests cool. I would say again, but I'm not sure they were ever cool. But tell us how you're trying to make safety vests.
Well, I have, a different color for every day of the week. And I just think that, especially for women, they want they want to accessorize their damn outfits, okay? And this is just one of the ways we can do that. And we can mix like different plaids with different like color of vest, safety vests. There's just ways that we can kind of just like, what is it, like personalize our style, our brand, whatever. And it doesn't have to be two colors and Carhartt brown. It doesn't have to be. And so I think that's important to me, because I think that like other women care about that. And they want to know, how am I going to keep this cool? And maybe some of them don't think that like that at all, but I care about that. When I design control panels, the colors of stuff is huge to me. That's part of why I really love Siemens, because it has dark blue hardware. And then I can pick cables that look really good with that hardware, like teal or purple, like looks, I don't know. That stuff matters to me. Does it matter functionality wise? No. But there's a lot of things in the world that are functionally, perfect and then also beautiful. So what is, I'm not going to fight the fact that I sometimes can make things look really nice, because it's just part of like the pride in your work, but also can you get other people to be like, that's really cool or really pretty? Like I've made blue control panels where the outside is like sky blue, and that just looks dope. Like there's things we can do to kind of like hype up the excitement by other people. So yes, like I've done it where like I'll make something really pretty and they're just gonna, no one's ever gonna see that, and I'm like, but I saw it.
That's how I feel about dashboards. I used to build like Tableau dashboards for a while for things. And I just, I really enjoy when they are pretty, when they have a good color scheme that matches, like a nice font, something that makes sense. It's a little on brand for whoever the customer is for the dashboard. And like, it needs to make sense visually, of course, like functionally, what's the high level information, and then drilling down, but then also like mixing the types of visualizations you have to make it visually interesting. Those are things that also like you can, that I
other people
that's a big
do appreciate
point
it,
of like being into your work enough to care what it looks like too. And unfortunately for women in this sort of industry, like we generally have not had a lot of work gear to choose from that's made for us or that even fits us properly. I mean, I had a hard time. I mean, shoot, it's even hard to find women's suits for interviewing. They think that like, hey, all we want is like fast fashion or high-heeled shoes, and it's like, no, I want stuff that, like, I don't buy high-heeled shoes, I don't wear makeup, but like that doesn't mean I don't enjoy certain aspects of picking or coordinating, or like I just happen to care more about it when it comes to the look of my dashboards or whatever. But yeah, I enjoy wearing like a purple high vis, or I just recently kind of got into these hats and stuff, and like now I realize I have a preference for the type of hat and like the type of, whether it's curved or this or that. And like, if you want people to be into what they're doing, then give them a way to like jazz it for themselves,
Personalize it.
I love this. Karim, the third person on this show. This will be his most favorite segment ever, because he also is very particular upon how visuals are made, and he may or may not think that Vlad and I make the worst visuals in the world. So I will throw that comment out there for Karim. If you've made it this far, this is for you. Slight follow up on that. So, are different branded safety vests, should that be the giveaway swag of the trade show year? Should we go pick a dozen different colors, and everyone can go get some different safety vest swag at trade shows this year?
That would be so wonderful. I think everyone would love it. I just want to point out that like even to get the guys excited, you can get all black and then just white and like the gray, or safety green, because like my company colors are like lime green and like dark blue. I have both of those, including a black one. I have pink and purple because I like the girl stuff, but there's actually a lot of options that you had no idea. And then there's like this is like a different material. See how you can see like holes in it? Kind of looks like
Oh yeah, it's
jersey.
breathable, huh?
Yeah, this is breathable,
Yeah.
but my other ones are not. So there's so many options. Oh, and make sure you look at how many pockets, because like you want to have like a fancy stuff with like a lot of pockets. Like you could come in on the side and on the top, and then you want like different size pockets. So the more
In the
pockets,
vest?
in the vest, I have so many pockets in some of these. Like the green one has like
So many pockets.
8-10 pockets or something insane. So you want that because you gotta have your phone and
That
like your
is-
walkie-talkie and like all this other crap on you. So it's a big deal, and you can have it any color you want, any material you want, and be safe, and no one will run you over.
Yeah, I'm down with the safety vest. We
Yes.
should do
No.
we'll do a purple automation ladies safety vests that we'll
Yes,
give
that's
away at one of the
definitely
shows
part
that
of
we're
it.
gonna be at. But good idea, Dave. I will go back at one of my early days at Keans. I remember me and the other sales girl, Annie, that was in my office. We had this conversation. We were like, why does nobody make functional work clothes for women with pockets? And all the pockets we get, they're half size and they don't fit anything. Like, why?
They're not real
fake.
pockets.
Or they're like, oh, there looks like there's a pocket there, but you can't actually put anything in it. It's so insulting too when you buy the thing thinking that it's just
We got
stitched
gyms.
clothes, but then it's not even real. We actually were like, one of us, if we ever get to there, we should start a clothing company that has real pockets for women. Like, just basic functional stuff.
Cargo pants are not a woman thing. Like we're trying to turn it into one, but like you guys have all the pockets, and we're just trying to figure out where to put everything.
Well, we're supposed to put everything in our purse, apparently. But then, okay, check this. My
So
son
I-
is
Fire
my
retardant
son is
purses.
2.5, and he loves using one of my purses. Like we had to get him a bag at Target the other day because he keeps walking around
Yeah.
with a purse. Because like his sister has the purse, why doesn't he have one?
Oh.
And like I have no good reason to tell him, like, no, you're a boy, you can't have a purse.
Like that's a backpack.
So I will say, in defense of pockets, most women's clothing that I've heard Beth complain about don't have pockets, regardless of professional or non-professional.
Oh no, yeah, that's
there's
totally
just
true.
an utter lack of pockets.
Utter lack of
yeah,
pockets for women.
Utter lack of pockets. So I will throw out manufacturing happy hour. I don't remember which episode it was, but Chris Lukey interviewed a person. It was a women's workwear. I will have to go find the episode and we'll go throw it in the show notes. But it was a lady whose name, again, I don't remember because I was not prepared for this part of the conversation, in which she started. I don't remember if it was just shoes or all types of women's workwear to basically solve the issue that we were talking about now, of there being a lot of non-functional and non-existent female.
Yeah. I know
facing,
you may be
Xena
referring to
workwear.
Xena workwear.
There
Yeah,
we
that's
go.
the one that I've
Yes.
seen. And it reminds me of like Xena Warrior Princess, right? That's how it's spelled
Yes.
with an X. There's at least 2 more companies. There's one company out of Canada that makes gloves sized
Okay.
for women's hands. Like work gloves and some other
Tiny
things.
hands.
And then I saw some other company started by like basically a girl just recently out of college, like
Mhm.
younger. And I think it's pants with proper pockets and stuff. I don't remember the name of
Okay.
that one either. But like we're
Proper
getting
pockets.
some options. Finally.
That would be a very good name for the business if it's not already named Proper Pockets. Proper Pockets would both be very Canadian as well as
Pocket equality.
I love that. So I will just slightly moving us out of safety vest conversation say I'm a big fan of the jackets and hoodies and other zip up sweaters that you can have, especially mostly in food and bev facilities in the cold rooms that I see. I go to those places and I'm like, man, some people just have like the best jackets. I also see truckers. Allie's going to be very warm by the time we're done with this. She's just got all of her work gear on. But no, this has been amazing. I've got a couple of closing questions for both of you. I want to talk about career advice. It's one of our favorite segments in which we ask for career advice. So I'd love some career advice. How about starting with Nikki, either for people looking to get into the industry in general, or perhaps women or other folks looking to get into industry. What is your best piece of advice?
Oh, to get into the industry, I guess if you don't have like an engineering degree or something that's a real path to like a starter job that's easy, I'd say if you have a college degree, the sales engineering, if you're a people person, is a great place to start. And just, don't take it as only sales. And if that company is only focusing on that, like there's plenty of them that can teach you the ropes in terms of actual applications, and there's so much that can be done around there. And a lot of engineers that are personable get into sales engineering, but the thing is, you don't have to have that background, right? As long as you're technically minded, you can solve problems, you're a quick learner. There are so many great people out there in the industry that can teach you if you show some humility and value what they teach you. So applications engineers taught me so much over my career, and there's this kind of friction between the engineering and sales. Oftentimes they don't want to teach you because they think you don't respect what they know, or that you just go out and sell a bunch of stuff that then they have to put together, right? Value your apps engineers. If you're in sales, realize what it is that makes them feel valuable, and add value to them, and they will add value to you. I promise. It'll just take some time for them to like warm up to you and get on your side. The other thing is it can take some time to get comfortable in a position or in a company, especially if you are one of the younger hires or one of the few diverse people. You're going to run into issues. Find a support system, maybe outside your company, that can help you get through those times, because it takes a level of maturity and experience to understand and navigate your way around those things. But don't let that scare you away, because once you get through that and you realize how to deal with it, and you realize that you can leave toxic companies behind and there's plenty of good ones, right? You can find your way in this industry if you enjoy the part of what you're doing. If you enjoy the work itself, but maybe not your work environment, A, you can get through it, and B, you can also, move on. The other thing is, this is more general career advice, but be open about what you're interested in learning. If it's above your pay grade or your current education, like, be vocal about what you're learning, and the people that can teach you will find you. Whether it's on social media or within your company or at a trade show, there's always somebody that knows less than you. And then there's always somebody that's looking for that next person that shows leadership ability or an ability to learn. And trust me, there's tons of people out there that sit there and do their job and have no interest in learning anything else. And if you have a hunger to learn, show it to the people around you, and somebody will find you and say, oh, you want to learn that? I can teach you that. And that's oftentimes informal. It's not going to happen through you sending out your resume or somebody offering to do it for you. You put yourself out there, and those people will find you.
That is amazing. Allie, same question to you. What sort of career advice do you have for us?
I want to reiterate like the strong point that Nikki's making, in that you can be the most badass learner, and I consider myself that, a badass learner, right? Like a self learner or whatever. And man, you can still be the best at that, and you'll never be able to like manifest some of this knowledge that people ahead of you have. So, and some of those people, they're going to be mean to you because they kind of want you to prove it, that you're even worthy at all to even receive any of this. But like, you want that. And I know that, a lot of people do have to like stand on their own, and like, people don't want to tell them anything. And like, some people are just, they have different, I guess, ways that they approach people, and they're not the most personal people. And so people get like intimidated or stuck, or they're just like, I'm never going to ask that person, like, I'm better and I'm going to make it without them. And you can, but damn, there's so much good stuff to come from these guys. And they're mostly guys. There's women too, but like the old timers, they know amazing things that you want them to show you, and you really don't want them to hate you. And it's not that hard to make them not hate you, but you do have to put in some work. Because they're not gonna be like, oh, hello, young child, like, nice to meet you. I'm gonna tell you everything I know. They're mostly gonna tell you to F off, mostly. So are you ready? You know, because now you got to go figure out how to make someone who doesn't want anything to do with you listen to you and sort of like start giving you tips. Well, it's not going to happen until you prove that you're worth a shit to those people. And it sucks because, you know, some of these people don't, I don't know, they seem very difficult, but like, I swear to God, most of them are waiting for someone to give a shit about this stuff that we all love. We love all this stuff, and so do they. And but you got to show them that, otherwise they just think you're there to take an easy way out, which you don't want to show them. They didn't have it easy, and they're definitely not going to expect you to have it easy. But at the same time, like, you don't want to be treated really bad either. So it's tough. Like, at what point do you walk away because they're not respecting you? And then at what point do you just sit there and take it because they're going to teach you invaluable stuff and they're going to die anyway? That's terrible. That's terrible. But like, what are we all doing here? You know, I don't know.
No, I think
be careful what you reject and why, because maybe they could have taught you something that's going to change the way that you operate your entire world, and you could just be mad about something stupid that doesn't matter, or a pride thing. Does that matter? Or do you want to know what's going on?
I'll throw in something from our last episode with Courtney. She said her first 5 years, she was doing embedded systems design engineering or something. She was an engineer, right? She was like, my job was meh. And my paycheck, you know, she went to work and she didn't feel any passion. And then she found automation and robotics. And now she loves what she does, and it comes through and you can tell. And I think those of us that found our place in it, like we realize it, and we just now, like, you can't get out of it, because there's something about it that like just scratches that itch for us, or we're excited about. And there's plenty to change, there's plenty to learn for a lifetime of learning in this career. But if you're out there and you're in somewhat of an adjacent career to automation and manufacturing, and you're meh, you know, bored, come here and you won't be bored. That's the one thing that's for sure.
Absolutely. I think that those are really good points. I have said it in the past and I'll say it again. I've only gotten to the place where I am in my career by gaining knowledge from other people. Some of it is given willingly. Like, some people are very happy to willingly give their knowledge, especially if you ask, and especially if you show some aptitude in it. And some of it is like literally like pulling nails one after the other to just learn kind of like little bits and pieces. And it is only through the combination of that. I hope that our industry gets better. And there are certainly folks like Vlad and other folks doing training sites out there who make that information much more accessible. And it's certainly a lot better now than it was 10 years ago, even 5 years ago. But we still have a long way to go if we ever want to compete against, I don't know, anyone else who like openly talks about what they do at work, and gets to a point in which maybe someday we can tell people what they do. And it's not a 4-hour conversation of, oh, what is that? And I don't understand that. And I've never seen that. So I think that is all very valuable. Thank you both. And then the last question is kind of open-ended. How can our network help you? I'd love to hear, Nikki, if you can give us kind of the pitch one more time on Automation Ladies and where to find them. Give us the pitch on Quotebeam, anything else that you're looking for, and then Ali, the same thing for process controls and engineering, please.
Sure. Okay. Automation Ladies, if you listen to podcasts, if you know, you do that, whether you're driving or working out or whatever, you can find us on iTunes and Spotify and most of those podcast places you like to listen to. Automation Ladies, pretty easy. Our website is automationladies.io, and there you can find all of our episodes. You can stream directly from there, or find, see We have some other things on there as well. We're going to be posting videos and things. And there is also, if you want to be a guest on our show, we'd love to talk to you. We love to learn about all different types of positions within the industry, hear different people's stories. So there is a section you can contact us on the website if you want to be a guest. And you can also leave us voice notes. Nobody's used it yet.
Ooh.
We haven't really publicized it yet, but there's a feature on the website for you to like leave us a message. And we
like
might
that.
listen to it and put it in our show at some point. So please do that.
Ooh.
Also follow us on LinkedIn. So we do have LinkedIn live events on occasion, whether it's interview episodes, or we also are doing industry panels around different topics where we have experts. We like to have these types of conversations and have different perspectives. So follow us on LinkedIn and join those events when you see them. So that's about Automation Ladies. We will also be at some, trade shows and things like that coming up this year. Automate in Detroit in particular, I know we're going to be at, and we're still trying to finalize our schedule for some other stuff. So if you're at one of those shows, we would love to meet you in person. We love meeting everybody that, interacts with us on the internet or listens to our show. We appreciate it very much. On the Quotebeam side, if you are a person that does any kind of procurement or specifying for projects, panel builder, systems integrator, OEM, at this point, even MRO, people are having a hard time finding spares for things. What we're doing at Quotebeam is we have a super easy to use marketplace. Primarily right now, if you know what part number you're searching for, search for the part number. And we work with distributors of those products that have stock to make it easy to find and buy their stock. So it may not be your local regional distributor, but somebody around the country or in the world might have what you're looking for. And we try to make it as easy as possible to find those parts that are in stock, make it easy for you to buy them, and we ship them right to you. So, and if you are a distributor that has any stock that you would like to sell to somebody that, a lot of projects, a lot of inventory that sits out there is because a distributor had a big OEM customer. They used to order something, they changed the spec, they ended up with stuff on the shelf that wasn't used, or, things are left over from value add projects, whatever it is. There isn't a big demand for that in their local market, so they're not actively selling it. And these are these huge, dark, just kind of pockets of disconnected information, really, is what it is inventory, but it's a lack of information that makes it hard. And that's what we're trying to do at Quotebeam, is bring everybody together. So if you're a distributor, we would love to work with you. It's another channel to help move your inventory. And if you're anybody that buys parts, right now, unfortunately, people are spending way too much time on that long tail of a few parts that they can't get. That's where we can hopefully save you some time and some heartache by making it easy to find and easy to buy.
Is it
So that's
open for?
Quotebeam.com.
Sorry, Nikki, to cut you off on that last point. I was gonna ask, is it open to individuals as well if someone's looking to purchase like a PLC for learning purposes, or like is that an open?
It is open for
registration?
anybody. So it is, think of it like an Amazon. You can create an account. It's free. You can see, we are working on a lot of tools to help, like if you don't know exactly what you're looking for, but you know that you want a certain function or you want to browse a certain category. We've finally hired like some designers. We're actively working on those sorts of things, as well as some cool light tools to help with selection. So to help speed up the process of, let's say, designing a panel, if you are not super proficient at that yet, to save you a little bit of time. So you don't have to be doing it from scratch or in Excel. We can make some recommendations, and it's completely vendor agnostic. So we have data, and we will be having the spec sheets, the drawings, the pictures, the attributes for every brand in the industry at some point. We're working on it. We have, I think, over 11 million SKUs so far on the site, and we're actively adding more. We have an open role for a data engineer coming up that we're going to be putting a lot more effort into that side of things. But it really should be like the easiest go-to place where you can compare apples to apples, specs and information, instead of having to go to hundreds of different distributors or manufacturers' websites to dig out the information that you need, as well as with some information about what's available and what's in stock. And then we're working on a whole lot of workflow automation on the back end. So we understand that people have relationships with their distributors.
Mhm.
And a lot of that is valuable, technical, value add know-how. There's no way that an online marketplace should replace that. It's just to help. And then, those people that have those relationships to be able to do their business a little bit more frictionless with, like, we have online collaboration tools like Slack, and the tech industry and everybody else has been using that sort of thing for, I don't know, 5 to 10 years now. And we're just kind of coming up on using some Teams and some Zoom and stuff like that because we had to because of, COVID. But honestly, we could be collaborating with the engineers, procurement buyers, the vendors, the distributors, right? Sometimes you need all of these people in the process, from design to procurement to actually building the machine. And we want it to be easy for everybody to work together on these projects and save a little bit of time so that they can use their time to build more machines, or, to actually enjoy your job. Like, engineers that are designing things don't want to spend half their time on finding parts or procurement. That's not what they're supposed to be doing. It's not what any of them want to be doing. And so we want to, introduce some automation to the back end of the automation industry so we can do more of what we love.
No, absolutely. I love that. And just judge, for anyone who couldn't see Vlad's face while Nikki was talking, I'm pretty sure Nikki's got like, I don't know, like 87 different strange, obscure requests in order to go plug all of the stuff behind Vlad and around his feet together on Quotebeam. So Nikki, thank you for that. That is awesome. Good luck on finding all of the strange parts that Vlad just requested.
I've already submitted quotes.
I was gonna say, I could see the look on Vlad's face, and you just know. So anyone listening, know that you're in the queue long behind Vlad's last, I don't know, 1,000 quotes in 8 days when this comes out. But no, thank you for that, Nikki. Definitely go check out Quotebeam and Automation Ladies. Those are in the live chats, and then we will also go ahead and put those in the podcast form if you're listening. We lost Allie somewhere along the way. So if she pops back in, we will let her go and give the pitch on process controls and engineering, PCE, I think PCE LLC on LinkedIn. Yes. She's got it.
I can give a pitch for her.
Go. Nikki, let's go.
Yeah. So PCE LLC, it's PCE.LLC is her website. Process and Controls Engineering is the Pacific Northwest's premier women-owned process and controls engineering firm. And so she's based in the Pacific Northwest. She does work. She has, I think, clients in all over the place, right? Because she can remote and she can fly. She's a process engineer. So she works on a lot of process automation related stuff, but discrete automation as well. She's burner controls, gases, I mean, all kinds of stuff. She works airports, landfills, cookie factories, you name it. But she has got a really great network of experts that she can pull in on her projects. So she is a younger, company that she's built that on back of her reputation of being somebody that can be trusted to complete a project. She does what needs to be done. She'll fly on site. She'll get the expert there. And she has a huge network of people to pull in. And it's a great resource for any kind of controls related, especially if you, don't have the capacity, and you need a little bit of extra help. Her and her firm and her network can be a huge asset to you. Particularly, she works with a lot of municipalities and on like mission critical infrastructure stuff, water, wastewater. Yeah, definitely check out her website, pce.llc, or you can find her on LinkedIn.
That was at least as good, if not better, than I think anyone else could have done. So thank you for that. Thank you for that, Nikki. You have certainly done Allie well, and honestly was much better than I could have come up with on the spot. So thank you very much for that. And thank you everyone for listening. This has been an amazing conversation with the Automation Ladies. One of, I hope, many more to come in the coming months and years as we continue to talk about all awesome things manufacturing and automation. I will say, if you've managed to make it this far, please go and hit that subscribe both to Manufacturing Hub, what you're listening to now, and also Automation Ladies, and give everyone a 5-star rating on Apple podcasts and Spotify and all of those other places that we can now rate podcasts. If you rate podcasts, they help. Go hit that follow button so we automatically download, and goes and helps to bump up our listens, and also make sure that we're available on your commute to or from site, or to and from anywhere that you're going to. Follow Manufacturing Hub and Automation Ladies on LinkedIn, and myself and Nikki and Vlad and Ali. All of our LinkedIn profiles are on the event, and I can attest that every single one of us spends way too much time on LinkedIn. So if you are looking or have a question for something, please feel free to ask. And like I like to tell people, if I don't respond, please ask again, because I probably just missed the message somewhere along the way. Until next week, we will see everyone soon. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you,
Bye.
Nikki.
Yep.
Appreciate